Okay, now let's start with the last video related to the implementation of Coroutine. Now last time I showed you some resources that you can refer to when implementing Coroutine, and I talked about what Coroutine basically looks like. In this video, how did I actually do it? In the process of implementation, we will discuss what classes we created and how we made them work. Now, first of all, I created a class called Coroutine. Well, as the name suggests, it is a class that contains information related to all created coroutines. So internally, we have some int value as a key that identifies each of these coroutine classes, and then we have a map that has coroutine instances as values as a member variable. So of course when coroutine is created, it will be added, and when coroutine is deleted, it will be removed. So this cordon dv goes beyond simply having cordons and becomes the subject of actually executing the Mac frame. However, since this execution is executed in the main loop of this game engine, you can think of it as being executed by one of the main threads. Now, in automaticity, I told you that in the case of Coroutine, multiple tasks are executed by one thread in turn. So it runs in the main game engine loop. Now then, there will be a class called Coroutine. Now, in light of the basic concept of Coroutine, what is this class called Coroutine? It's going to be a class that corresponds to a task related to a task, and by putting a function called an operator in it, you can put in it what function I'm going to implement and what function I'm going to put in it. Now, this Coroutine class D is from Coroutine Divi earlier, and now all the Coroutine classes. I said it was managed in the form of int form of key-value. Then, of course, each coroutine will have its own identifier assigned to it, and that identifier information will also be added to this coroutine. Now then, maybe it's a class from a slightly different domain than a coroutine, but first of all, a script component exists in the game engine I created. Now, when we develop an engine, we usually make some default components that are essential to the engine. So, whether it's a transponder component or a collider component, there's going to be some basic components to run the game engine, but completely separate from that. Now, when you make a game with that engine, you can have components that are only needed in that game. I usually call it user scripts. So in this game engine, so that these user scripts can be handled conveniently and easily, the components for these user scripts are first made separately in the form of base class, and now the user script. It inherits the base script component class and implements various functions. To summarize, the script components we are talking about here are now the base components of the user script components. However, for now, I thought of the concept of letting this coroutine itself be executed only by the user script rather than the engine. In this script component, I also set this curtain to have a member fraction. So I inherited what, for example, is a high script. Then if I say in this, I want my high script to be able to execute any curtain, then I create any curtain class I want inside this high script. Now that we have it in the form of a member variable, we can actually run the Coroutine through this script component. So if I create a Coroutine through a script component, it will be registered in the Coroutine DV, and then I delete the script component and make the Coroutine you now have disappear. Survival. You have a cycle life cycle. So when the script company was deleted, it was also removed from the DB, and it was a class called script components that existed in this way. So how does this work? Well, like I said, there's a main game loop. It will go round and round and always in the middle. There will be a part of all these coroutines running. Coroutine DV is in charge of execution. I did. After that, in addition to other game engines, numerous script components may be newly created or deleted. Then, among the script components at that time, if you say, I want to execute Coroutine, this Coroutine add it to the DB side and then I will disappear now. So, if I ask you to make the Coroutine I registered disappear, when the script component disappears, the Coroutine I registered in this Coroutine database will now be released and the overall logic will proceed. So far I have told you about how I implemented this Coroutine in CPLPL 14 version.